But news aggregation is basically taking stories by reporters and journalists and basically spreading the Johnny Appleseeds, right? A lot of times they don't get a lot of exposure because they're not like the mainstream media does, because mainstream media seems to dominate the airwaves and cable and all that. So these smaller but really good journalists need the seed needs to sprout, and it needs to poke out of the ground, and you're kind of like the farmer that does that. Why don't you tell people what you do as far as that's concerned?
Ooh. So it's really funny. All I wanted to do was share a few links on Twitter. That's how this started. Was holy crap, there's all this amazing independent content out there. There's really no central place to find it all. You really have to go digging. All right. And in order to aggregate it, all these different websites, they actually have something called an RSS feed that you can subscribe to, and it's a link that you can plug into another website, which is what I figured out how to do. And voila, we have a central hub website to find all the independent content that you're looking to find. And that's really what it started with. And then it's like, okay, well, let's see, how can we incorporate YouTube videos into this too, and showcase the independent streamers and content creators that are creating on YouTube? How do we integrate with podcasts? Well, it turns out podcasts also work on RSS feeds, so we can integrate podcasts into this. And it just continued to evolve and snowball. And so that was about 2 years ago. I built out what was then Progressive News Daily. And after 6 months, I realized that progressive was kind of a dead term, and I did not want to be identified with people who were starting to identify as progressives, meaning Nancy Pelosi and Jim Clyburn, who said, if that I'm the most progressive Democratic senator, Democratic representative in the House. So, okay. Well, if that's the case, then that's not me. So we rebranded after 6 months to Independent Left News and Independent Left Media. We LLC'd in December of 2020. And it's been a wild ride. We've just continued to add platforms, and we were publishing out twice a day, and then we added a Substack, and oh my goodness, we'll get into the rest of it. But that it really just started that I just wanted to share some links and figure out how to centralize news articles and videos from independent platforms. And I'm embarrassed to say which ones it was in the beginning, because we felt very differently about them at that time. Meaning Kyle Kulinski, TYT, Nomiki Konst, a few others, but Mike Figure, the Humanist Report, they were part of the foundation and what I started with to figure out how to do this. And then I discovered Richard Medhurst, and I got more into listening to Lee Camp and the MCSC network, Fiorella, the Convo Couch, and Misty, and all of these other content creators. And I realized that was really kind of pseudo corporate news, and they weren't really covering the issues of the left, quote unquote, or the issues of the truly uncorrupted, and that electoral politics, it was a rigged game, and they're focusing on issues that really we have no control over in the end. And I'd rather help the person next to me. And that's what we've kind of, shout out to RBN for always working mutual aid, and Rome, everybody out there for really focusing on what we can actually do to make a difference today. That's really where it's kind of evolved. So, wow. I'll shut up and let you ask a question, because I tend to ramble and rant and take over.
No, you're great, man. You're doing a great job. That's why I got this show. I don't want to talk that much. So I like it when other people talk. But everything you said is amazing, and I see it every day. I'm mostly on Twitter. I used to be on Facebook a whole hell of a lot, and then probably about a few years ago, I started being more on Twitter, and now I'm primarily on there. And that's every day. That's all I see is you're sharing some journalist or some story or some video, and it's it's pretty impressive, and you've got a pretty good rep too. A lot of people, they know you, and they know what you do, and they appreciate what you do too. And
Well, thank you.
you're welcome.
I appreciate what they all do. I got to say, what you do, and turning on a microphone and turning on a camera, because I don't even turn on a camera. I figured out this rigged setup, but putting yourself out there, putting your name out there, and going live. It's taking risks. It's I give that a lot. I give you a lot of credit. A lot of people are afraid to do that. Let's just put it that way. So when you are uncorrupted and you are giving speaking your truth, and you are coming from a perspective that you're not seeing anywhere on the corporate owned, corporate controlled, homogenized news channels, and not just news channels, but all channels, all of the networks, right down to Amazon, Apple, Hulu, all these streaming platforms, they're all owned by 15 companies effectively. Yeah. And we know who those companies are, and I'm looking for the content that's not on any of those platforms. I'm trying to avoid those primarily, as well as things like the Associated Press. I got to be honest, it's incredibly mainstream, and it's always on the whatever the narrative of the day is. They tend to try to set it. That's the Associated Press and Reuters. Unless it's a really straight news article, I tend to not to not share those. I'm looking for the outlets like the Left Voice and a lot of the Substackers who I've been promoting for 2 years, like Popular Information, and when Glenn Greenwald went there, was a supporter of his early on, and Matt Taibbi when they moved over, and now we figured out a tool for that as content creators. So, for example, we have a Substack for Indie News Network. We publish a Substack to let everyone on our mailing list, and it's a great way for streamers to build a mailing list and to let their audience know when they're going live and get around the algorithm suppression and the notification messes, because it notifies you across 6 devices, and sometimes it's not on the device in your hand. There is so the Substack is a good way to email everybody. Plus, it's a website that that remains static, and you can embed the stream. So right now, if you go to Substack, IndieNews.Network.substack.com, you can actually watch this YouTube stream embedded live on there. We've also figured out a way to multi-stream and do all kinds of cool stuff. And what this has done is introduced me to people and all kinds of experiences that I never would have dreamed of having already. And it's still just the beginning, who I've met and what I've learned and who I've gotten to speak with. It's just remarkable.